All right, guys, we'll get started here. Thanks for joining us today. We'll start off with Coach Golding, giving us an overview of today's announcement and our upcoming game against Tulane.
Yeah, just obviously really excited for our players today. Big day, being able to watch the selection show and all of their hard work and everything that they put into this building, this staff, and this community, and everybody from Keith and the Chancellor and the Grove Collective for all this, to come into place and have the opportunity to play at home for this community, for these players is a really special day. So, got them coming back in tonight. They'll report back tonight at 6, and we'll have a normal work week. And it's time to turn the page and getting our preparation ready for a really good Tulane team. So I'll open it up for questions.
Yeah, Pete, the draw itself, getting Tulane in a rematch. I mean, y'all beat them earlier this year, 45-10. What do you remember about them, and just what is your overall thoughts on the path y'all drew?
Yeah, obviously, first, I think they're very well coached. I think, John's a good buddy of mine. They do a really good job, really well coached on offense. Really concerned about them coming in the first time they play. They're multiple in personnel and obviously got a quarterback with experience that I thought presented a lot of problems coming into the game. Obviously, coming out of the game, created some turnovers, played really well on offense, a lot of explosive plays. But the big thing now, man, I mean, that feels like years ago at this point, right? It was early in the season and they played really well lately, and they're coming off on a really good game and got some confidence in winning the conference championship and create a lot of turnovers. So we know we're gonna have our work cut out for us. Obviously, having been at Bama for all those years, we're used to playing somebody twice. Once you go to that SEC championship game, you're playing them twice. A lot of times the Division II and one AA was the same. So you got to look back. You can't get away from who you are, but you look and evaluate that first game and what were they trying to accomplish. What did they have that they didn't take advantage of that we got to prepare, for that they're going to come back with. So it's a good combination of, okay, what was the plan there? What did they attack? All right, what was their game plan? And then, all right, now how are they going to complement it and when to address it to get to the same concepts with different ways? So it's good to have some comfortability with it, but also our guys got to understand that that was years ago. What happened in that game has no indication what's going to happen in this game, and our preparation has to be on point, and we got to be ready to roll and have really good plans and have a great week of practice.
And as far as the last couple of weeks, and now getting to this point where it was focused on everything but football, to now be able to celebrate the accomplishment for what it is, and have this day, what was that like with the players? How did they respond? And what was just their overall response to getting the news of this reward of getting in the college football playoff?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously this is a little different because they knew they were going to be in, right? Obviously, based on their body of work. So I think they were just ready for, all right, who are we going to play, right? And that spot the ball mentality that we talk about to be able to turn the page and put the focus back on, something else other than media and Twitter, right? And somebody's name and who was the coach and all that type of stuff. So I think they're excited to get back and have a game plan and put the previous game that we had to bed and move forward to a new scouting report tomorrow and some new opportunities and some new challenges with it, with a really unique game plan versus a really good football team. So I think they're super excited. But, as I told the team last week, I said, look, guys, there's only one team that's going to be happy at the end of this. This ain't the Gator Bowl, right? This ain't any of that stuff to where, you go in, you play well, and you win your last game. When you win this last game, you're walking off the field because you're the best team in the country. And so we got to make sure we're doing everything that we can in our preparation to give ourselves our best chance to put our best foot forward on Saturday.
Hey, Pete, what is
Hey Pete, John said earlier today that y'all two actually kind of FaceTime last night. Just, what's y'all's relationship like? And if you can, what was that conversation like?
No, obviously us defensive guys, man, there ain't a lot of us, so we got to stick together. So no, so obviously John and I, go way back. I recruit Louisiana. Obviously he's, been in Tulane. My brother lives down in New Orleans, so get down there and see it, think the world of him. So think a lot about him. So I was just calling him. Obviously the selection show hadn't come up. I said, oh man, hopefully y'all got to go to Oregon. Bring your ass out west. But he had a good indication that he was kind of pushing to get back to Oxford a little closer and all that. So I was just congratulating him on a heck of a year and obviously talking about some of the Florida transition. And I told him he better bring his ass to Gainesville. He's going to be losing all these players over the next 2 weeks if he's not down there trying to save that program. So I was just messing with him. I really just congratulated him.
What has the last week been like for you? Just from this time last week to today, is there any way to even put into words sort of all the different things you've had on your plate?
A lot of lack of sleep. Probably the least amount of sleep I've had since like Vegas in '07, probably. But no, I mean, obviously, I think on Sunday, kind of when that thing hit, you just hit the ground running, man. I mean, I think, for me, it was the players at that point, and all I could think about is, the promises that I made in recruiting and talking to parents and the things that I promised, and the example that I was trying to set and all their hard work to make sure that, we didn't lose that. And so I felt like at that point, it was our responsibility to try to retain as many staff members as we possibly can. From that point forward, it was our responsibility to try to save the class as best we could. Really wasn't concerned from a defensive perspective. But obviously, when you're first called an offensive guy is Tuesday at noon, you don't feel real good about it because obviously the retention of the offensive staff as well. So it wasn't really much time to think about it. And then my transition went to the players after signing day. So then we brought them back in Thursday. We had a team meeting and we kind of broke up into groups that we call get real groups and just kind of let them talk and try to get a pulse of the team, try to get how they felt about the situation. And then, I started meeting with them individually on Friday. We got them back, on the grass on Friday, getting them running around, and then gave them the weekend off. And we'll get back and attack it tonight at 6. So I think they're in a really good spot, man. I think it's a player-led team. I think we got a lot of guys wired the right way that aren't getting caught up in the emotions of everything that occurred. That this is still the 2025 season. We're not talking about 2026 yet. I told them I view myself as an interim head coach right now, and we're not going to reinvent the wheel. This thing was heading the right direction. Right now, I look at it as like the COVID year. There's 2 games we didn't have Coach Saban, but Sark walked us out the tunnel, and we still beat the shit out of Auburn. So we got to do what we're supposed to do. The play callers haven't changed. It's going to be in our preparation and how we practice and preparing really well to give us our best chance. So I think getting back to our normal routine of what they're used to up to this point is really, really important.
As far as the play calling stuff, Pete, Charlie's come back, for the playoff run. Is there a chance he could stay long term? What kind of conversations with that? And when do you anticipate having some staff stuff maybe finalized or introduced in that way?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, a lot of these guys on Sunday just wanted to create opportunity. And what I mean by that, the message of them leaving the building never was they weren't coaching in the game. The message was 1000% I'm coaching in the game. I have to give me, my family, an opportunity at the end of this, whenever that is, what's best for me, my career, and my family. So there was never any inkling at all that Charlie Weiss wasn't calling the plays in the games. And that came from him to me and him to Keith Carter. And at the end of this thing, whether that's him being the OC at LSU or him being the OC here, that's up to him and his family. But, I made it a point to him, Charlie. It's like, I don't want to talk about 2026. I said about 2026. This is about 2025, right? And doing what we're responsible to do for the players, right? To put them in the best position to have success because they deserve that. So it was never not that for Charlie. And so whatever he decides, that's no different than every player in our team and every coach on our roster. In January, whenever it's over, everybody evaluates where am I at? Am I where I want to be in my career? Do I have better opportunities for me professionally, right, or my family, just like the players do? So we'll address all that after that we did create a really good plan and hold these guys accountable and go play really well.
Coach, is Ole Miss better off with you as head coach for this game with your commitment to the future and your focus on this game than it would have been with Lane Kiffin, do you believe?
I think Ole Miss is better with the players being properly prepared and preparing the right way and practicing really well and having really good plans on both sides of the balls with consistency and play callers and the development at the position. I really don't think, right, at the end of the day, at this point, it's one thing if it's game 1. All right, and you're worried about, what's the culture like and the routine hasn't been set and all these guys don't have all that. To this point, to me, who runs you out of the huddle is overrated. It's not going to matter. At that point, the game's already won or lost by the plan and the preparation and the energy and the attitude of the players. And do they want to continue to compete and do they want another game or are they tired? And so I don't think it has whether it's another name running them out or me running them out. I really don't think it matters at that point. That work's already been done. And did you do everything that you could to control the outcome? And that's based on how you prepare and how you practice.
Coach, what does it mean for Ole Miss football to host it for the first time in the college football playoff?
Yeah, I think, I think it means everything in the world for this community, right? And for a chancellor that's been all in on athletics, right? For an athletic director that's given everything, right, to this school. For a Grove collective, right, that's got 1 million members for this community, right? Friends, right? For me around that own hotels and restaurants and bars and everything that they've given to this program for one day to have another opportunity to be able to host a playoff game, I think is awesome. And I think for the players to have invested so much for this team, right, the legacy of this team, right, to create that for them, I think it's been really unique because I think it's a really special group of kids. And so I think it's awesome. Obviously, I think this is something that this program is going to be the expectation moving forward. That's something that I'm used to. That's something when you invest a lot into programs and you're aligned right from the top down, from the chancellor to the athletic director to the head football coach to a really good growth collective led by Walker Jones and you elite really good players. This should be the norm. And I'm not going to lie to you. I called the Players Council in last week and I was like, look, the selection show Sunday. We can have a party if you want to. We can have a watch party. But to me, this is the expectation. All right. Y'all came here, right, coming off of last year, and we're pissed off that we weren't in it last year. Y'all came here, right, to make sure we were there. So if you want to have a party and blow balloons up and have food, I'm good with it. Y'all are going to decide that. But we could be in there breaking it down and getting a good game plan together, right? So we're having a party after the game. And they were all on board. Let me have a little more time off and let's show up at 6 and let's go to work. So, this is not a celebration to get in the playoffs and get your ass whooped. All right, you put yourself in a really good position to be able to finish this thing the right way and make sure we're controlling what we control, and that's our preparation and our plan, and hold them accountable to play really well.
How do you personally feel just about this being your first game as head coach or interim head coach, and it's a playoff game, taking the reins?
Yeah, I don't feel any differently, man. But I'm a little different. I was D2, 1AA, mid-major, conference championships at Tusculum College. You never heard Delta State, South. It don't matter to me, man. Football, we've had a spot the ball mentality for a long time. I'm where my feet are. I don't care if I'm at Tusculum, Delta State, or here. I'm going to prepare the same way. I'm going to try to create a really good plan. I'm going to hold kids accountable, make sure that we're doing everything we can to try to win the football game, and be smart doing it. So to me, it's no different. I think you start making this thing bigger than it is and blowing this thing up and asking guys to press and do things that they haven't done all year. My big thing for those guys is just, don't look back and say, my bad, or I wish I would have. Right, you get very few opportunities, right, once you get into this to take advantage of it. And this is a 6-week process up to this point. Like, what are you willing to give up to get what you want? And, for me, on all those runs that we made, it was the guys that continued to wanted to play football that we continue to play football and won. And I think that's the big thing of keeping it fresh and keeping the focus and keeping it exciting for them. I think it's going to be really important. But I think we got a group, right, that's really tough, that's really competitive, that loves football, but they really get along and they care for each other. So I think we got to hold them to a really high standard. We got to develop some really good plans for them and see what happens.
You said that you're going to keep things the same way. Does that mean you're going to be in the press box calling plays for the playoffs?
Well, we're going to look at it. We're going to give us what our best chance is to win the football game. So obviously, I think that's a little bit different from an interim tag to what the tag is now. I've called plays in the box. I've called plays on the floor, obviously. All 5 years at Alabama, I called it on the grass. My first year here, I called it on the grass. To me, once you went to helmet communication and the tablets to where they actually get to see the video on the sideline, there's benefits to both. There's benefits to be able to see them in their eyes and see where they're at, and there's benefits to being upstairs. And sometimes you feel like you're a play ahead. But we're going to do. We got 2 weeks to make sure we got the best plan in place, for our team to give us our best chance. So we'll see where that goes. I'm not making any decisions on that right now.
Hey, Pete, Keith made the decision, or said that you made the decision to cancel your introductory press conference. What was the rationale and reason going into that?
Yeah, for me, it was, we've been through about a month and a half, right, that all the focus was on everything that didn't matter. And the focus wasn't on a team that went 11-1, that busted their ass, that did everything right to put themselves in an unbelievable position to have players, right, that had really elite years because of team success that should be able to get individual accolades and aren't, because we're talking about the wrong shit. And so, for me at that point, this has nothing to do with 2026. This is 2025. In a normal situation, I'd be the interim coach. We'd be celebrating this team, this town, this university, having the ability to host a playoff game. Why the hell would we make it about me when it really doesn't matter? They don't give a shit whether I run them out or not. Let's put the focus back on the players where it should be. Let's get ready to finish this thing the right way. And then if you want to have one in January, have one in January. And let's charge everybody to do it and make it in rev share and whatever. And let's go get better players. All right. But this does not matter right now. We're worried about the wrong stuff. And there's a bunch of kids in that locker room right now that need to get the focus back on them. because at the end of the day, all right, they're going to determine whether we're going to win this game or not, right? By their execution and their preparation. It ain't going to have nothing to do with what the head coach's name. I can assure you that.
You may have just kind of
Off
answered this,
that.
Pete. And you probably don't know the answer to this, but in your opinion, does this team have a kind of a renewed chip on its shoulder after everything that it's been through the last few weeks?
I mean, I think obviously adversity in anybody's life, right? You're going to do one or two things, right? You're going to attack it or you're going to run. I think the mentality of this team, I'm not saying it wasn't that prior to, I think we got a lot of really good players on this team. We got a lot of guys wired the right way that are tough and competitive and play together. And so I think certain events happen at certain times for reasons. Sometimes it brings people together and they go on a hell of a run. Sometimes it breaks people apart. And so I think that's our responsibility as a coach to be for them there right now. But I think we got a very unique group, right? That's really not concerned with who's running the remote right now. They want the stability within the scheme and the system to where it doesn't change. And it's a routine that they're used to. They want to be held accountable, right? Like normal. They want to have fun in the process and then go give themselves our best chance to go win a football game. But I do feel like, the camaraderie of our group is very close. And I'm not here to tell you that event did that or not, right? But we have a very close group that's going to play for each other. It's going to practice extremely hard, and hopefully we play well.
For your journey, have you had a chance to think about the Tuscum days and now leading a CFP team, or is that sort of what you talked about, something that you just think about in the off season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you probably don't know me well, but I don't care if I'm coaching football or playing my wife in tennis. Like, I'm trying to whip your ass, right? So, like, I really get focused on the task at hand and what we need to do, and how do we do it better than anybody else. And whatever my role is doing that, I'm gonna do that to the best of my ability, whatever that is. And I don't look for another role, don't want another role when I'm at that point. I was fully content, obviously, coming here because of the situation in which I came and why I came. And so that was, there's never a point in this whole process that I'm calling Keith Carter the chance, like, hey, I want the job. That it wasn't one time, right? I'm like, hey, I don't want this damn job. Like, I like my job, I like doing my job, coaching my players. All right. And then it gets to a point to where, to me, what happens to young men and what I see is happening, I'm not going to allow that to happen. And so, I think things happen for a reason and people are places, at certain times for a reason. And I think the good Lord put me here. So we'll see what happens with it. But no, I don't focus on what the game is, where it is, and who we play. I focus on the preparation of it and the things that we need to do to play really well to give us our best chance, to be honest with you. Now, somebody might be different for some people, but I've been in a million of these. All right. I can go in the closet wherever they're at and they got rings and national championship rings. I don't know where they're at, but I got them. Right. We've been there, D2, 1AA, and all that. So, it's not going to be anything about the result of it, right? It's going to be about the process of it and what we do to give ourselves our best chance.
But when you did get the news, when Keith said, we've chosen you for you, not that you're going to be sentimental about it, but did it give you an emboldened sense of like, yeah, now let's get back to it? I mean, what was the immediate reaction for you, right, when you got the news?
The immediate reaction was I got my ass up out of my seat, went straight out the door to try to recruit offensive staff not to get on an airplane. That was my immediate reaction. So I couldn't tell you the years, the money, and I still can't, right? Does that make sense, right? So it's like, hey, man, I got a lot invested in this, just like these players do at this point. Right, let's try to keep as much in the boat as we can, and then go find some other ones to put in if we need it, right, to go make a run. So it probably still hasn't set in, and I don't want it to set in. That's my point to the players. I'm not looking at my responsibility any different than it was when we went to game one right now. Right? Does it have a different role in front of more people in certain times and team meetings and all those type of things? Absolutely. All right. But as far as what my responsibility is, this team to get guys prepared, and went from one side of the ball to an entire group. All right. But kids are kids, right? And the room got a little bigger, but nothing else changed. I'm not changing who I am. Right. I ain't changing what the hell I wear. I'm going to yoga. I'm playing pick. I ain't doing any of that shit. Like, I am who I am. All right, we're going to roll. We're going to do this thing the right way. I've done it a long time around a lot of good people, right? And we're going to give it our best shot and see what happens.
Coach, can you talk about it? You talked about a little bit of the aspect of the team. Can you talk about what makes this team in particular so much more different? I was asking the guys after the Egg Bowl, the brotherhood camaraderie of this team. Talk about this team. What makes them different in the trust that you have in them heading into the playoff?
I think they're selfless, to be honest with you. I think that's everybody's major concern in college football right now. When you recruit at a high level, especially in the portal, you're not bringing backup players in. You're bringing starters in from where they're at, and that's their expectation. And you're adding them to a group of guys that some of those are returning starters at their same position. So the concern's always, right, everybody wants to think best case scenario in everything. That I'm going to go there, I'm going to have an elite year, I'm going to be all conference, I'm going to be all America, I'm going to win a national championship. And in reality, a lot of those guys left as starters from where they were at, and they're here and they're rotational players at best. And there's two ways to think about that when you get that. A lot of guys are pissed off, had negative energy and body language, and affect the people around them. Or you have guys like we have that just want to be told the truth. Hey, where am I at? What do I need to do to improve? What's going to be my role, and how can I improve that? And in the meantime of that, I'm going to be a really good teammate. In the meantime of that, I'm going to push this guy really, really hard to make him be an elite teammate, right? And create depth for us because guys are going to get banged up. And I told several of those guys, the Jalen Tua story last week when I'm meeting with them individually, right? To have that resiliency like Jalen did, he get pulled out, right, as a national champion and undefeated at halftime of the national championship, to get pulled out, not hurt, not like Austin, you get pulled out. And watch a true freshman go in there and win it in overtime at 2nd and 26 and not transfer, and watch it for 12 games to be the backup to Tua and him go out in the third quarter of the SEC championship game. And who comes in? Jalen. We're behind 10, leads us back, and wins the SEC championship. Nobody would even know who he is, right, if his mentality wasn't to be ready for that moment. And I think that's the biggest thing. We got guys like that right now that here they work hard, they practice hard, regardless what their role is going to be in the game. And I think that's very unique, right? That does not happen everywhere. And so that's a culture created by really good players, led by coaches, right, in a lot of different areas of the building, that they don't care who gets the credit. And that's hard right now anywhere, right? That I'm going to put the work in, and I really don't care who gets the credit. We get the credit. We get to become 11-1. We get to have a playoff game. And it wasn't based on any individual. And so I think that's what's unique about this group.
Do you anticipate keeping the same type of offense, up tempo, that type thing? Some defensive coordinators think you got to slow it down. What's your thoughts?
I like offenses that score, because that means you can give up more on defense. No, obviously, I think the really important thing, all right, in a program is stability within your scheme. And so what I mean by that, right, regardless whether you look at Alabama and Georgia on those runs, OCs left, DCs left, but the stability within the scheme, you recruit elite players into an NFL-style system that's had a lot of success. It takes care of itself, because you go in that freshman year and you learn the system. Now that sophomore year is the same system, same language. You go from English 1 to English 2. And now your third year, your most important year because you're draft eligible, right? You're in English 3. And so now we're coaching the opposite side of the ball. So on defense, they come in here, all we're worried about, hey, alignment, assignment, key. Where do I line up? What the hell do I look at, right? What do I have? What's my run responsibility? What's my pass responsibility? That second year, we're focused on the technical aspect of that position, playing the game of pad level and stance and hand placement and eye control. That third year, we're coaching offense. All right, if I'm a DB, look at the split variation, right? He's inside my divider, outside my divider, 2 or 4 is flipped, back's all set to me, right? Tackle's got a high hat read, boom, here comes the concept. And you're anticipating calling out plays before they ever come, and that allows guys to be more productive. So no different than what I was raised in. I don't want that to change in whatever phase that is, offense, defense, or special teams. I think when you acquire really good coaches, they're going to have other opportunities that are better opportunities for them and their family. And you want them continuing to grow. So now we're going to have young coaches under them as well, so that our systems don't change. So to answer your question, no, I'm not changing a system, right, that has put us in the position that we're at. That's led the country in offense for multiple different years and been very productive. And we have a locker room full of good players that have been recruited to play within that system, and got really good coaches on our staff that coach that system. So no, I don't anticipate any change in the system. I anticipate continuing to recruit really good players and put them in the system, and having a really good quarterback like we always have, play good defense, right, and win a bunch of football games.
Coach, a lot of the Ole Miss identity was intertwined with Lane. Obviously, he got a lot of national attention with his social media accounts, public appearances, sideline antics. How do you maintain that level of exposure? You strike me as blue collar. Is there a thought process as far as what you want the program identity to look like nationally?
I think everybody in the country today is talking about Ole Miss football. Why? Because they're in the playoffs. People talk about people that win. I don't care what they dress like, what they do. Is there notoriety outside of things? Absolutely. But if you win games and you compete for championships and you put guys in the first round of the draft and they get drafted and you recruit at a really high level, right, and you recruit good players on signing day, then they're talking about the football program for the football program, for the development of the players, for winning football games and continuing to do that. So no, I'm not a Twitter guy. I won't be a Twitter guy. right? So I got my new contract. They can fire me at any point. My ass will be at the beach. All right. So again, I am who I am. We're going to recruit really good players. We're going to have NFL style systems that aren't going to change stability in the systems. We're going to hold our guys to a high standard, just like we have, right? And obviously, we're going to win a bunch of games in the process.
Hey, Pete, I know obviously you started off as a walk-on at Delta State. When you kind of reflect on that now as a head coach, what do you kind of remember about walking on and being a GA at Delta State, and what can you kind of reflect on that as being a head coach now?
Yeah, I think it's just the mentality, right? I mean, I think it's hard to instill that in people. I think some people have that and they don't. And what I mean by that is, regardless whether I was a walk on or not, my mentality was go outwork everybody else, right? Regardless of the position that they put me at, right? Regardless how I got there, who's on full scholarship, it doesn't matter. I mean, I think, it's a very easy concept. Everybody wants to understand, like, how do you get to where you want to go? You got to outwork everybody else. You're not always going to be the most talented guy or seen as the most talented guy. You got to be willing to do things that they're not. And when you have talent and you do those things, then obviously then now you have a lot of success. But, my time at Delta State under Coach Rhodes, obviously, who recruited me down there with Mike Kershaw, was unbelievable people, right? In a place that I was still allowed to do what I love, right? In my opinion, was at a very high level, right? That I enjoyed everything about it. I think it makes you appreciate this level even more. All right, because obviously back then you got a spirit pack and that was about it, right? You got a hole in your socks, good luck, And so, some of those things when you get to, nicer places that have better nutrition, right? And you travel better and all that, it makes you more appreciative of that, right? But I think it's, very rewarding, right, to understand that there's really good players at Division II. No different when I was at Southeastern. There was really good players at 1AA. The size, speed of it at certain positions is a little different, but at the end of the day, guys that were tough, competitive, and love football, they played and we won a bunch of games with them, regardless where we're at, what the logo was on. So that's not going to change, but I was really appreciative of obviously all the people in Cleveland and Coach Rhodes and my opportunity there to get into it. And Coach Roberts had a huge impact on for me as a player, more importantly as a man and as a coach. So that's a big piece of who I am.
One more question.
Hey, Pete, go ahead, bud.
You talked about the commitment from your coaches. Do you see that same kind of commitment from your players? Do you expect to be at full strength the rest of the way roster-wise?
I can assure you if a player doesn't want to play in a playoff game, I don't want them in my locker room. So, yes, I fully anticipate why players play football, to be able to compete for a championship. And if they have the opportunity to do that, 1,000%, I feel like every player in there would. If he would not, I don't care what level I'm at, I don't want him in my locker room, and my ass would never draft him. So I don't know what we're talking about. This is not the Gator Bowl from last year. This is not all them other bowls. This is the opportunity to compete for a championship based on what you've done up to this point and you have earned with a group of brothers that you came in with and made a bond to create a legacy that no other team here has ever done. So if you ain't up for that, I don't want you.
All right. Thanks, guys. That wraps us up for today. We'll